Hello and welcome to another weekly update. I hope you're doing well. It's a bank holiday here in the UK, so a day not at work. But I still wanted to do a weekly update because obviously for many of you, you're still working, and I know many of you watch this not in the UK. So lots of things to talk about. Let's start with the really big announcement from the week. Microsoft Ignite is back. New dates have been announced for Microsoft's IT Pro conference. Since kind of lockdown happened, Microsoft have been doing two Ignite events every year. They've been doing one in the spring and the more, towards the end of the year one, and this was the one that just got announced. So the dates for what they're calling Microsoft Ignite, and each of these events has been given a slightly different name. We had Ignite Spring, we had Ignite 2021, the Fall Ignite. Anyway, this one is just called Microsoft Ignite, and the dates for it are November 2nd, 3rd and 4th. And the other key piece of information that we learned this week is that this is going to be a virtual only event. I think probably Microsoft were waiting to see whether it could become a in-person event or kind of mixed hybrid event, but they've made the decision that it's going to be online only, and I think that's probably smart. If you look at the demographic that make up Ignite, it is quite a international conference, and many both speakers and attendees would be traveling from around the world. That's still quite an uncertain thing at the moment, and obviously Microsoft don't want to be responsible for creating a big super spreader event. So I think online only makes sense for Ignite. I think it's interesting. We're in the place now with conferencing where we're seeing national events going in person, and that again kind of makes sense because in those countries and in those places where restrictions have been lifted and people can mix together more freely, it makes sense to have these kind of slightly smaller, in the case of Ignite, most conferences are much smaller, localized conferences, if you like. And that's not to say people don't travel between them, of course they do, but it's just a different scale when it comes to something like Ignite. It's just a different scale of people. Okay, so that's what we learned. There is something pretty confusing, actually, that I just want to take you through because I made this mistake when I did the blog post, and I then had to correct it. So let me show you in case you see this as well, or you see other people doing it or talking about it, and then you can correct them and you can sort of understand what's going on. So, this is my blog post, but what I wanted to show you was the Ignite homepage. And the thing that's a bit confusing right now is that right now we don't have a lot of information about what Ignite is going to be and what the sessions are going to be. However, if you go and look at sessions, you can go and see a session catalog. Why is this confusing? Okay, well, these are not the sessions that are happening in November. These are on-demand sessions from March. However, it's super confusing because the days from the spring Ignite event are 2nd, 3rd and 4th, just like the ones in November. And in November, as they were in March, the 2nd is a Tuesday, the 3rd is a Wednesday, and the 4th is a Thursday. So it's very easy to come here, as I did, see Tuesday, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, think, oh, that lines up with November. These must be November sessions, but they're not. So, pretty high on the likelihood list is that on the 2nd, on the Tuesday, but November, there is going to be a Satya keynote. I think that's probably to be expected. But all the other sessions, these are all from March. So don't get confused and think that the session list is out already, or even that the sessions are available to watch on demand or anything like that. That's not what's happening. These are the old sessions from March. At some point, I'm sure Microsoft will refresh it, probably when the session catalog is ready to be published. But yeah, just so you know, that's what's happening there. Okay, other things. So we're going to, I guess for Ignite, just to wrap on Ignite actually before I move on, we're just going to have to wait for the session catalog. We don't have a lot of information about what's coming. There's been a few things in the team space that we have kind of had hinted at. So at Inspire, Microsoft did sort of hint at the possibility of some way of kind of embedding Teams into websites, I think, for contact centers. That was a kind of slide that my colleague, Tom Arbuthnot, picked up on in a session. So maybe we'll get a bit more information on that. But other than that, I think we're just going to have to kind of wait and see. Obviously, there's a lot more emphasis there's a lot of emphasis still on the hybrid stuff, which completely makes sense. But yeah, we're just gonna have to wait and see. I think it'll be interesting. There'll be some stuff in the team space. There'll be some stuff in the Azure space, I'm sure, as well as other things. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see on Ignite. Obviously, as I find out more, I'll let you know. And I'm sure Microsoft will as well as the sessions become available. Okay, next up. I do want to tell you about a blog post that fellow MVP Chris Bardon has done. This is cool. This reads a little bit like one of those blog posts that I write when I don't want to forget something. And I kind of put it all down because it took such a long time to figure out and to work and to understand what on earth's going on, that by the time you figured it out, you want to write it down somewhere. You want to kind of get it onto paper so you don't forget it for next time you come back and have to try and figure it out. And that kind of feels like one of these. I've just realised I kind of credited Chris as being an MVP. I think he's an MVP. If not, apologies, Chris. You should be an MVP. Anyway, and this blog post is titled "Things That Are Harder Than They Should Be," which I kind of completely agree with, and we'll come back to in a minute. Creating and monitoring a group chat in Teams. And the scenario that Chris is solving here is creating a group chat, adding some people to it, taking some people away, sending some messages to it, reading the messages in it, but also crucially doing all this as an application. So doing all this as some kind of service somewhere, not as a user. It's kind of okay to do it as a user, but what if you need an application to do it? You need some service and batch job, something in response to something to set this stuff up, to monitor it, and to tear it all down at the end. And Chris has been around, doing this stuff and writing code like this for a long time. He's got loads and loads of history doing it with UCMA back in sort of Link days and Skype for Business server days. So kind of he would be able to do this very easily and use something like UCMA. But I mean, he's now trying to solve it in Teams, and it's interesting. So you can do it. It's a bit complicated is the kind of takeaway, which is hence his kind of blog post title. But he goes into a really good amount of detail with code samples on exactly how you do each one of those things. So through creating the chat, through adding and removing people, sending messages, reading. And reading kind of is really interesting because you have to write a ton more different code. That's bad English, isn't it? A whole load of more code that is different to go and read stuff than you do to write it, which seems bonkers, but that is the case. You have to go and set up a change notification subscription and kind of deal with the messages being sent that way. So pretty complicated stuff, really, for what it's trying to do. But it's tricky and it's a bit messy. But if that sounds interesting, let me show you. I'm talking through Chris's blog post and you can't kind of see what I'm talking about. So this is kind of reading, but he's talking about actually if you want to go and read, you've got to go and subscribe. But he goes into a really good level of detail with the code samples that you can follow along as well if you need to, all the way up through every one of these examples. And you can see here creating the chat. It goes through as well the permissions you need and all the rest of it. So this is a great level of detail. It's really useful to have. It's a great resource to have because quite often, I'm kind of the same. I forget to write stuff down, and then you figure it out in the moment, and then you don't commit it, and then you have to figure it out every single time again for the next kind of 2 years. You're trying to do something and you've just forgotten. So I think it's really good to have these blog posts. I really like when people like Chris do blog posts like this. It's the reason I try and blog stuff as well is if you don't write it down, you forget it, and you don't want to throw away all that effort figuring out the hard stuff. And so yeah, it's good to have blog posts like this. So thanks to Chris for this. This is really useful. And so go check his blog post out for all that kind of detail if you need to create and monitor a group chat, or even if you don't, but you're curious how to do it. And it's an interesting kind of exercise if you're in this space, if you're doing Teams development, just to kind of think through, okay, well, how would I do that? How would I solve that problem? And then you can read through Chris's blog post and see if it's the same or see if it's different and start a conversation. Okay, other things. This is a little bit of an announcement, but it's not really worth kind of a full-on blog post about. Just to let you know that if you need to list chats then that's something that was previously only in beta, but it is now something that is in V1. Well, if I can click on this link to open it, here we go. It's this one where no application permissions. Again, this is kind of the problem with the coverage of some of these graph APIs at the moment. So some of the things you want to do, this is delegated only. So this needs to have a user in play. You can't do this with a headless application, but this will let you list chats for a specific user or for me. This used to be beta only, and it is now V1. So if you've been holding off using it for whatever reason, because it's not production ready, if you want to use it in production, you now can do that because it is now in V1. That's a change that happened a few days ago. But yeah, like I say, it's not really worth a blog post because it's just a single method that is being promoted from beta to V1. But I wanted to bring it to your attention so that you could know about it. All right, just one more thing I think to talk about, and that is Commsverse. So Commsverse is a conference that is coming up soon in the UK. To my point, actually, talking about Ignite, this is a kind of national local conference. It's deliberately kept small, and it's going to be kind of very teams specific. I did a video, and I'll put a link to the video in the notes if you want to watch the video, really just talking about Commsverse in the context of a hybrid event, because Commsverse is marketed as a hybrid event in a way that lots and lots of other conferences are also marketed as hybrid events. But what actually is a hybrid event? What does it mean to be a hybrid event? And I wanted to do this video because actually what I feel is that Commsverse have gone to a lot of effort to really lean into the hybrid nature of this conference and to make sure that the attendee experience is really good regardless of whether you're virtual or whether you're in person. And there's really kind of almost no difference between the two when it comes to consuming session content. So I go into all the detail about that in the video. So if that sounds interesting, and actually on the back of that, if I was going to recommend a conference to attend virtually because you're not ready to travel or you're not able to travel because there's lots of travel restrictions still in place, go check out Commsverse, because as a virtual attendee, I think Commsverse could be a really good experience to have virtually. All right, I think that's everything from me. My week looks like doing I think probably another video around Commsverse. There's some more things I want to say about that, so look out for that. And putting together some speaking content for Commsverse as well, so I need to make sure that gets done and work on that. And I'm sure there'll be some other news and things that come out in the week as well, especially as people kind of come off their holidays and get back to work. September starts up again, the machine starts up again, so I expect there'll be a whole slew of announcements coming out sort of from here on out, really, for various kind of new features or things that are coming and things to get excited about. All right, that's everything from me. Hope you have a great week, whatever it is you're doing. Stay fit, stay healthy, stay happy, and I will talk to you again next time.